I'm Beth Berghan. I'm an internationally award-winning leadership and communication coach, and I am here with you live on a number of different platforms at 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time every single Tuesday. Hey, today I've got a very special guest. I'm really honoured to have my friend and my colleague Kevin Khan join us. Kevin, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Beth?
I'm really well, thank you. We were just talking actually about how nice it will be to get to the end of the year. It's been a long and busy year for both of us, hasn't it? So, I wanted to give you guys some insight into Kevin. So, I'm going to just run through some of the things that he brings, or some of the things that have built him the experience that he brings with us today. He's a multi award winning professional coach, mentor, and mediator and business leader. And he's actually had an international career that spanned over 30 years in a lot of corporate and multinational organizations like um, American Express, Hewlett Packard, IBM, PwC Consulting, KPMG Consulting, and Solution 6. And he uses all of those experiences to now be coaching and mentoring C level and executive clients, all about clarity, confidence, and focusing on how they can maximize their performance and their potential. He's been featured on all sorts of TV shows. He's in Forbes magazine, Marketing magazine, Human Resources magazines, and he's an advisory council member for the Harvard Business Review. I need to tell you, he's a really nice guy. He gives you all this stuff, and you think, whoa, who is this person? Kevin also has a really strong commitment to the ongoing professional development of coaches. So he's the vice chair of the board for the International Coaching Federation. He's an ex-accountant. He was actually born in Australia, but he lives with his family in Singapore, and he's also been to school, to university in the States. So, Kevin, you've got all of this with you to share with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Beth. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so when you think about all of that experience that you've had, which really began, right back when you first did your accountancy study at Monash University in Melbourne here in Australia. Since then, like your version or your interpretation of what leadership means to you must have changed. So, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, it's evolved over time, Beth, simply because of the different environments and different people that you work with. But the one thing that has stayed constant throughout, really, in terms of what leadership is motivating people or stakeholders to move and achieve common objectives,
Mm,
because that's what a leader needs to do. They need to corral people, um, help them understand the vision, help them understand why we're heading towards a certain direction, and ultimately being able to garner people's trust so that they'll follow you in terms of achieving either organization or corporate objectives.
and so I guess garner trust. I love that phrase because it's one of those things that we can just chuck out there, isn't it? We
Mm.
can just say all the time, oh yeah, we want people to like, trust, and respect us, or whatever the phrase might be. How do you garner trust? What's the number one thing that you would share with us?
Well, I think I learned really young that basically trust is earned, and you earn trust by doing what you say you will do. So
Mm,
if you say you'll deliver a report, deliver the report. If you'll meet with the client, meet with the client. Because when people know that you are reliable, when people know that you're going to show up, when people know that you're going to add value, that's when
mm.
trust takes place.
Yeah, I like that. Because often we don't think about it as it really starts by us demonstrating that we're going to do what we say we're going to do.
Mm.
And as a leader, we can then actually ask our team to step up as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
basically leaders are role models as well. So if you deliver what you say you will deliver, your team knows that they're expected to do the same.
Yeah. Okay. So often I come across, and I'm sure you do too, people who are aspiring leaders, and they're looking around them to see what kind of behaviors and characteristics
Hmm.
the people in their lives or people in their community or people in the business organization they work in, they're looking to see what kind of leadership they're demonstrating. Thinking about aspiring leaders, what two traits or characteristics do you believe that they would really benefit from developing?
Well, I think the first one is curiosity and active listening. Um, because in order to move forward, in order to understand the challenges either your staff have or clients or customers have, you actually need to understand. And that's where curiosity comes in.
Mm,
So asking questions of the clients and customers, asking questions of the employees, that's how you get things to change, to move, to come together to make sure that everything is successful. And active listening is important because it's not about you, it's about the
mm,
other person. So listening attentively and giving them the respect of actually listening to what they're saying, because sometimes it takes a lot of effort to tell you as a leader the absolute truth in terms of what's happening on the ground. It's just human nature that sometimes, oh, you're the boss or you're the leader, and we don't want to lose face. We don't want to look bad, or we don't want to let you know that we don't know what we're doing.
mm.
So sometimes it takes a lot of courage for that, and good leaders will make it easy, will create a safe environment so that people can actually say it as it is. And by listening, that's how you can implement things to make things better, make things easier
Yeah.
for clients, customers, and employees. So that's
Oh,
one.
yeah. Yeah. And another one?
So the second one is to put experience front and center. So by that I mean the employee experience and the customer experience.
Oh,
You can't
okay.
have
Yeah.
one without the other, because you won't have customers if you don't have employees. Somebody has to make the product or somebody has to service them. So
Mm,
the experience for both employees and customers is paramount to any successful business. So a good leader will make sure that the employee experience is great, simply because if employees aren't happy, how do you think that will rub off on the customers? If
mm.
you empower employees, then they're able to make customer experience really, really powerful and great, because it's
Yep.
frontline service and they're empowered to make decisions to give a delightful experience to customers.
Mm.
So that's the second key one, the whole experience gamut, whether it is employee experience or customer experience. It's really important for leaders to understand and implement the experience concept.
I love those things because, like questions are really the answer, aren't they? It's
Mm.
all about asking those questions. And if you don't understand, asking again. And I think that if early on we can develop the skill of active listening, which means that we need to be listening or we need to be listening with more than our ears. We need to be actually noticing what we're noticing about whoever we're speaking to. So I really love that. And curiosity, yep, gorgeous. The
Mm.
customer and the employee experience is a really interesting one because um, as we go about our day, it's much easier for us to notice what's not going well than it is to notice what is going well.
Mhm.
So, how would you suggest that I actually increase my awareness of the experience that others might be having?
Well, it's about making sure that whenever something good happens or something successful happens, that it's
Mm.
celebrated with the employees, because
Yeah.
employees will then feel appreciated. They'll feel that they belong to an organization. So when you have a happy environment, or a good environment for employees, they'll carry that on whenever they have interactions with customers.
Mm.
So it's really important that there is a sense of belonging also, because if an employee feels like they belong to an organization, they're more inclined to deliver better service and to be accountable for whatever they are doing, whether it is in the back office or whether it's in the front office with clients and customers. So it's really important to make sure that we have um, a sense of belonging, but also empowerment for employees to do what it is that they do best and to deliver that delightful experience for customers.
Yeah. It's a whole nother conversation, really, isn't it? But often leaders focus on solving problems for their employees or their teams because it's easier for the leader. However, they don't realise that that's actually disempowering their team. Every time they solve a problem, they're sort of taking another piece of that autonomy off them. Yeah, that's a discussion for another time, maybe.
Mhm.
So, to thinking about those aspiring leaders, what, like, there's always a flip side, yeah? So we've talked about this curiosity, active listening, and providing a really positive employee, excuse me, and customer experience. What's one thing that aspiring leaders would benefit from being less of, do you think?
Well, I think being a toxic person is
Yeah,
definitely a no-go zone. We've heard lots of horror stories from employees where they have managers or bosses that are just yellers. They just yell at everyone or anything.
yeah,
So that creates a toxic environment. It's not a great environment to be in whenever someone yells at somebody else. It's uncomfortable for the person being yelled at,
hmm,
but it's also uncomfortable for other employees who have to witness that as well. And just think about it from a human psychology perspective. Who
hmm,
likes to be yelled at?
yeah,
So anything that engenders or creates toxic environments, that's something to clearly stay away from. The other one that I hear a lot from employees is managers stealing the limelight. So
yes, I
team or
know.
employees come up with solutions or come up with the deliverable, and the manager steals the limelight, presents it as their own solution.
Yeah.
So that's another one that's not great.
Yeah, I really like those two choices because um, we're so quick to identify that behavior that we don't like, and yet often we're not looking at our own behaviors to
Mhm.
determine whether that might be something that, or there might be that same behavior or a different behavior that we're contributing to. Um, and most definitely stealing the limelight. Like the reality is that you can build such a strong cohesion in your team if you're prepared to acknowledge that this was a collaborative idea, or this was an idea that was born out of something that Beth said at a meeting, or that Kevin brought up. It's, you really can improve the cohesion.
Mm.
I also think that um, we don't always recognise. Um, a lot of leaders don't recognise the impact, the negative impact that it has on their team when they present an idea as their own.
I think the thing there is it's about having the maturity, right, to understand that a good leader or a great leader is somebody that develops their people and leaves the organization in a better place than when they arrived.
Yeah.
So by doing that, it's about giving credit where credit's due, so that if you leave, then there's a possible succession plan in place in terms of people knowing, oh, there are team members here who could possibly step up and take over that
Step up.
role.
Yeah, yeah. Another one that comes up and up quite often for me with my coaching clients, and I'd really like your insight in this, is that, um, and it's certainly happened a lot to me. Don't others would tell me, don't tell your team when you don't know the answer to something. Don't tell them when you don't know. And everything in me goes, hey, if I don't know, I'm going to put my hand up and say I don't know. Others saw that as potentially career limiting. What's your take on that?
So that comes under the umbrella of being an authentic leader, right?
Mm,
We're all human. We're not robots. We're not computers. We're not ChatGPT, right?
yeah,
We can't know everything, and that's just coming to terms with our limitations. That as humans, we can't know everything. And being an authentic leader is identifying your strengths and weaknesses and things that we don't necessarily know. And a good leader will find somebody that will help them or will take up the slack in terms of the areas where they're weak or where they have no
yeah,
knowledge. And that's a sign of a good leader, recognizing that you have limitations and you're bringing in the experts in order to help you solve those business problems.
yeah. That we can't be all things, can we?
Yeah,
There's
and
there's no way. We need to bring that great team around us. Yeah,
correct.
I love this conversation. So, when you think back on your leadership journey, are you able to recall some sort of a sliding doors moment that, in relationship to that journey, that really made a difference for you that you're happy to share with us?
So the memories that stay with me, or I would say with most people, is when you have a leader that focuses on people. So talent or people development, when a leader does good talent people development, those are the leaders that stand out for me because these are the ones that actually take an interest about your next steps, your career, and also what it is that you want to do.
Hmm.
Um, hmm. And it's important to have leaders like that because those are the leaders that nurture the talent and
Mm.
nurture the possible innovation, ideas, and the people who bring creativity to the role. So if you're not nurturing that, how are you going to move forward? How are you going to provide the service that customers or clients expect? Um, so it's really important to make sure that we have leaders that take an active participation in developing their people because that is the future of the organization.
Yep. And you've been lucky enough to have those kinds of leaders in your life.
Mm. And as I said, that's one of the reasons why you remember the great leaders because those are the ones that take time out of their schedule to have conversations with you
Mm.
about what it is that you've achieved, where you need to do more development, what are the other options that are available to you.
Mm. You've experienced a lot of leadership roles in a lot of different multinational companies. Your leadership roles have been kind of Asia Pacific manager for different roles. They've you've had a lot of employees under you. When you think about the things that um, are most important to you as a leader, um, did you always know that you were going to be a leader, or did others see that in you before you saw it?
I think other people saw it
Mm,
simply because they asked me whether I wanted to do different leadership roles and positions.
mm,
It's not something that I historically would have just volunteered to do.
mm,
Um, So I was very happy and very grateful that the leaders that I had saw the potential and
Mm,
asked whether I wanted to do some of these roles. The periods, especially the period that I was in at HP, I did a different role probably almost every 18 months to 2 years.
mm,
Um, and that was, yes, opportunities did arise, but it was also conversations with leaders asking, is this something that you can do? Is this something that you want to gain new experience in? Is this something that you want to lead? So I was very lucky to have leaders around who saw that potential.
mm. And if we're coming back to aspiring leaders or anyone who is in a lower level leadership role, that they might be a mid level in a senior executive team, or and they've got aspirations to be to have more or take on more leadership responsibility. um, what kind of conversations should they be looking to have with other people in their organization?
I think it's about having curiosity about what other roles or other departments or divisions,
Mm,
just be curious about what they do and what skill sets are required and what makes that division tick and what are the expectations both from a customer perspective as well as management perspective in those divisions or departments. And that way you get to understand. And as you go through from a curiosity perspective, asking people, having coffee chats and things like that, you're starting to build relationships
mm,
so that when the talent conversation happens at a senior management level, people start remembering, oh, this person asked about that. Is it
mm,
an opportunity to do a rotation? Is it an opportunity to do a stretch assignment, especially if you have been identified as one of the high potentials?
mm,
So it's important to have curiosity. That's one. The second one is building relationships, whether internally or externally within an organization, because you never know when something will pop up, either in terms of an opportunity, a role, or creating a new product, even.
mm.
So I think that is important to build that relationship so that people know your accomplishments and achievements. So rather than trying to let the work speak for itself, as you build the relationship, is to also talk about what you've achieved within the organization
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And that's often the bit that people find the hardest, isn't it? Like, I'm just quietly over here working away. How do I actually let everybody out there know? And it comes back to a couple of things. What got you to where you are isn't going
Yes,
to get you to where you want to go to. And we
correct.
all need to be really clear about that as leaders. Just because we're a leader of a small team of 10 doesn't mean that we can necessarily lead a team of 200.
Hmm.
There are different skill sets that might be required, but also um, that not being, I guess, not being shy or learning to promote yourself in an appropriate way. I wonder too about putting your hand up for things more often. It's really easy to lose yourself in a larger team, isn't it? Where you're not actually noticed at all. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so in a team environment, it's also making sure that as a team, it's a high performing team as well. So having the ability to contribute and lift the team up together, that's also important because when people look at high performing teams, they're also evaluating collaboration capability.
Mm,
And in modern organizations, it's all matrix structures. So we're not looking at one person looking after an entire organization, it's
mm,
several different people. And in order to get synergies out of our complex environments that we are now in, collaboration is absolute key.
yeah.
So when you're working in a team, how collaborative are you and how is that showing up? Because that is what people are evaluating.
Mm. And that building those relationships means that collaboration becomes so much easier
Mhm.
because you've already been talking to lots of different people. Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation. I was talking with one of my clients yesterday, Kevin, about the S curve and how we start out and we're on this really steep learning curve, and then we sort of start to level out at the top. And if we don't recognize ourselves at that point, that we need to put our hand up and say, I can do more, I want to do more, that's where we're in real danger of getting bored
Mhm.
as an employee, whether we be only there for 12 months, 12 years in a leadership role, whatever it might be. It's that little tipping point.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I have loved this conversation. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I could talk to you for hours. You and I both know that. We get into trouble when we do that, don't we? Takes yeah, we can talk about all sorts of things, which is wonderful. So, Kevin, thank you. You've talked about, how we need to be prepared to develop trust as a leader so that we can get others to follow us. We've talked about, you know, doing what you say you're going to do, asking lots of questions, being an active listener, making sure that our team is getting a really positive experience and that they enjoy working with us, and that they enjoy working for the company, because that will mean that they give a much better client experience to whoever they're engaging with. And we talked about, no, we don't want toxic behavior here. It's a no-go zone
Mhm.
for that. And we also don't want leaders who are going to steal the limelight and act as
Mhm.
though everything was their fantastic idea. Don't like them at all. And lots of things about being prepared to develop our people and making sure that we develop relationships so that we're open to stretching and growing ourselves. Thank you. Lots of really great information in there. I really appreciate you. Kevin, before I finish for the day, one, is there anything that you'd like to add? And secondly, how can people connect with you if they'd like to talk with you some more?
Well, it's wonderful speaking to you, Beth, as always. So thank you for having me and inviting me to speak with your audience. So people can reach me on LinkedIn. It's Kevin Khan SG. So it's very short. It's Kevin Khan SG. And that's my handle on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. So, everyone, next week I will be back here on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Leadershipisation, all things leadership. Thank you. If you're watching a replay, we're happy for you to put any questions or comments below with hashtag replay, and we will get back to you. Or I'll get back to you as quickly as I can to answer your question. Thank you so much. Bye now.